This is Larry with ProjectSecondChance.org. I'd like to give a shout out to everybody who supports Project Second Chance. I'd like to give a shout out to A.N.G Productions for a wonderful production every time. I'd like to also give a shout out to PolishedSouls.com, and I'd like to give a shout out to Bright Young Minds Academy. I'd like to thank everybody who helps me help the youth, and that is what it's all about. So this speech or this lecture or this video that you're about to watch right now is truly about the youth. I want you to keep that in mind as I go through this process. And as I always say, this is my life story that I'm getting ready to share with you. And remember, I have the right to share my life story just like you have the right to share yours. It's your perspective. We can actually be in the same event at the same time and see things totally different. And just because you share yours don't mean that I can't share mine. We see things differently. We experience things differently. So this is very touchy, a very touchy subject. And the reason why is because a life was lost. And anytime a life is lost in anything, you better believe that you have to be very careful with how you deal with the situation. Not because of how everybody gets upset or people get angry, but you also have to realize that God is the master of all things. He is the planner, and He is the best planners of all things. So I want to stay humble when I express what I'm getting ready to share with you. And why I'm sharing this, I want to make sure you have an understanding of that also. 2 days ago, my partner Mike Anderson had a youth summit here in Fayetteville, and he invited some special guests that I wasn't privy to was coming until a few hours beforehand. And when he brought the particular guest in, his name was Mike Joyner, or his name is Mike Joyner. And Mike Joyner is the brother of a young man who lost his life when we all were teenagers, all right? And Mike Anderson has written a book, and in that book, I think you can go to page 158, I believe, is when it begins, or 155, somewhere in that area. It's in the 150s, all right? Go check it out. Polished Soul, the Mike Ray Anderson story. He talks about a particular event that was truly a pivotal point in my life, a pivotal point in his life, and he talks about a young man that he's charged with taking his life. When you think about it, all right, we have to be very careful. Now being 42, that was about 24 years ago. We have to be very careful with how we deal with that situation, even how we discuss it, because there was a lot of wounds. There was a lot of pain. And there was a lot of lives changed from that one incident. So therefore, when I speak about it, understand that I'm not trying to offend anyone. All right. Now that I'm a conscious man, and I'm no longer a 17 or 18-year-old man or a 17, 18-year-old young boy, I see things totally different, and I realize that I was part of something that I was brought into, and not having enough knowledge, not having enough understanding what I was a part of, all right, that it contributed to a life being taken. So what I thought back then is not how I think right now, and I don't think that I should think the same way that I did then that I do now. So in that situation, Mike, in his book, talks about where there was a fight at a particular neighborhood, and in that fight, other things started to take place where people started getting angry and people started getting upset after a fight. Now, when I was coming up, as you're going to watch in the video, this is part one, you're going to see in part two, you're going to see in the video, when I was coming up, we used to fight. And after we fight, we handle and settle our differences. And that was it. And when you saw each other again, if you decided to fight again, you fought again. But as time started going on, we started getting guns in our hands. We started getting weapons. All right. And there were some people that I grew up with, and people that you may have grew up with, that you start realizing once they start getting guns, they're no longer your friends. They become your enemy because they want to use those weapons, as we saw in that movie Juice. They want to use those weapons, and they really think that they have power. But I want to talk about this particular situation later on, more in depth. But there was a young life that was lost. And today, when I look back, do I have any sense of proudness of being a part of that particular incident? Of course I don't. Am I happy to look back in my history and see what took place, having the knowledge that I now have now, and understand that I was used, that I was brought into something, that now I know better? Am I proud of that? Of course I'm not proud of that. But the reality of it is that a life was lost, another man was shot, but also lives were lost as far as those such as myself, Mike Anderson, ended up in prison starting from that point. And I was reading a lot of posts when we put up there about Mike Anderson and Mike Joyner, settling their differences. Mike Joyner is the older brother of the young man, Desmond, who lost his life. And Mike Joyner had a lot of animosity, and Mike Joyner is not the only one. There was a lot of people who had a lot of animosity. Whether Mike was justified of doing what he did or not, people are going to be angry because that's their friend or that's their brother or that's their son. At that age, you don't see it like that. And they were justifiably angry and upset. But at the same time, we must understand that Mike Anderson and myself were trying to bring peace. I want that to be made very clear to everybody out there. In that situation, if it was anybody who wanted peace, it was me and Mike Anderson. It just happened that we were in a situation where we were able to walk away alive. That's a true story. But we wanted peace. And a lot of people, are upset, and a lot of people saying that now we forgive you, Mike, because his older brother has forgiven you. And I can understand that. But do you know the story? Were you there? I think Mike Anderson is looking for forgiveness from the family for his own specific reasons, and I understand that. Because he too understands that he participated in something, whether we felt like we had to get ourselves out of the situation, whether it was our life or their life. And of course, the first law is the law of self-preservation. So whether we use that first law or not, or he used that law or not, we realize that we were part of something that was bigger than us. Now that we have grown and we become older and we have our own children. And why did I go to that event has a lot to do with me having mentors, me having a leader before me in my life that's living right now, who's calling a gathering, not a march, a gathering for 10-10-15 justice or else. Truly, if it's truly about the youth, we have to be an example. And that example we have to be is show them that we can't tell you to make peace with your little brothers or make peace with someone in your community and we haven't made peace with people in our community. So this is why I went. I went because I want to be an example for the youth. And I want to be able to show them and tell them when they say, well, have you made peace with the people that you had a fallout with 24 years ago? And I want to be able to tell them, yes, I have. Whether they want to make peace or not, at least extend the olive branch of peace. I want to be able to say that I've done what I'm telling them to do. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I won't do myself. Despite whether I agree with Mike Joyner or not. Despite if I agree with those who disagree with me or not. Despite if I agree with those who say they hate me or not, or hate Mike Anderson or not. I still wanted to do the right thing. Now, what they're doing with their life is another thing. But you know what I'm doing with my life. You know what Mike Anderson is doing in his life and what we decided to do because we were a part of something that took a young life when we were only teenagers. We have decided to dedicate our lives back to the youth. I want you to think about it. So for those of you who are angry or upset with us and you're holding some type of animosity towards us, what are you doing for the youth? What are you doing to give back to the children? Because Mike and I have been doing this for over 20 years. We did this in prison. We didn't wait to get out of prison to start doing this. We've been doing this since we were young boys, young men. We changed our lives. Now the question is to all of you who we extend the olive branch to, what are you doing with your life? Have you made changes with your life? What can you say and what can you show the youth that you have done with your life? I want to go into something else real quick, and then I'm going to get back as I close out as we go into the next video. There's a reason why black children do not see the community or see their city as theirs. They may say, I'm from this city, or I'm from New York, or I'm from Vietnam, I'm from LA. But when they're walking through the streets, if they see trash on the ground, they don't pick it up because they don't truly identify with it being theirs. They say they're from it, but they don't really identify with it being theirs. Somebody asked me a question after the event that Mike held 2 days ago, because it was spoke of about snitching. And they asked me, what is snitching? And I will define that later on. I'm going to have a separate video for that, but it leads to something. What is snitching? You see, when you really believe that a community is yours, it's because your parents have taught you that it's yours. They've taught you that a community, a city, a state is a business. They are incorporated. So when one community or a white person drives down the road and he understands or she understands how the city raises funds through taxing the people and how to build a pool that they can pull money out of a fund that comes from the people in the community who make a certain amount of money, and you tax different individuals according to how much money they make. See, when you understand that breakdown, you understand that this is really my city. So when someone's driving down the road and they see somebody's paint pail fall off the back of a truck and it spills across a newly paved street or newly paved road, some people look at it and they just, all they're thinking about is their car. Some people look at it and what they're thinking about their car, but they also see the paint on the road and they're upset and they get out, pick up the pail, and then maybe come back with a pressure washer, and you'll say, what is that crazy person out there doing? Pressure and washing a public road, because they identify with it truly being their road, their city. And see, black people, after 400 years of being over in a strange land, not being raised and taught that it's theirs, that it's their own, being taught for hundreds of years, that you're building something for somebody else, for a master, and that you're less than a human being, and then all of a sudden you free these people. They don't identify with the city or with the land being truly theirs, or the community truly being theirs. It's kind of like you take a killer whale. What is that movie? Free Willy? All right. You don't just take a killer whale that you've raised inside of a small pool and then all of a sudden you had them there for 20 years and then just release them out there to the wild because you fed that whale. You was a doctor or the veterinarian for that whale. In the wild, they don't have that. So you just take that whale and throw it out in the ocean. That whale won't survive 2 days. I want you to think about it. Same thing with a lion. You can't take a circus lion and go throw it in a jungle and think that lion will survive. That lion has never fed itself. Don't even know what a gazelle looks like. I want you to think about it. It doesn't even know what a true leadership or a hierarchy of lions look like. I want you to think about it. Think about that for a minute. So, when the question was asked to me 2 days ago after that event, Larry, explain to me, what is snitching? You see, when you identify truly with the community and you know it's yours, if somebody's breaking into your neighbor's home, all right, it's not snitching. When you're protecting your neighbor's home, that's your friend. It says, want for your brother that what you want for yourself. Do unto others as you want done unto you. Love your neighbor, all right? But see, that's not a neighbor that you love if you can't identify with them. If you see somebody over there selling drugs across the street from your house, I want you to think about it now. And you allow it to happen, it's because you don't see that as your community. You don't see that as destroying your community. You don't see that as them enticing a child across the street that is also yours, even though it's your neighbor's. You don't see that. So I want you to think about it. So if you see somebody breaking into your neighbor's home and that is your family or that is your friend or is your neighbor that you get along with, that's not snitching. To call the police when you see that individual breaking into their home or to run out there and deal with them. But the problem is this. When the police come into the neighborhood and they gun down people in your community that you love and mistreat them, beat them up, throw them on the ground, they become your enemy. So then when they then come to question you about a community you live in, you have a choice to choose between your enemy and another enemy, and you're going to choose the lesser of two evils. You're going to choose the side of not snitching or not telling on the individual who you saw rape the girl over there. Because you're looking at an enemy that's asking you questions and you don't trust that individual. That's one thing. Two, when you have people in your own community, I want you to think about this, who are working for the police, bringing drugs in the community, all right? They get in trouble, get caught outside the community, they get out of the situation. Because what they're doing, they're working for a department in another community to bring drugs in, to get innocent people who are in poverty or in college to sell drugs. I want you to think about that. And then they're coming and they're enticing people who would have never thought about selling drugs. That is an informant. All right? That is not just a snitch. That is an informant. That is an enemy to your community. Because not only, all right, are they selling the drugs, but they're working with the police departments or an agency to funnel the drugs into the community with a license to do it. A license to destroy your community. Now see, people who truly love their community will not let anybody sell drugs in their community. Will not let anybody shoot or rob other people or rape in their community because they identify with their community. But when you don't identify with it being yours, you don't protect it. You don't love it. Because young black people, young black children don't understand, and even adults don't identify with this being their city, their community, because they're not treated like it's theirs. So I want you to think about what I'm saying. I want you to think about it. But what is snitching? All right? If you and another individual agree to go do something, and then one of you get caught, and then you decide because you caught and he got away, and you decide that I'm going to tell on him because you got caught and he didn't get caught, or she got caught and you got away, and then she decides to implement you, that's snitching because you did not want to hold up to the agreement. You see, in life, you got to start holding up agreements on all levels. And see, me and Mike Anderson, we held up to an agreement. I want you to think about it. And that's why when we went to prison, we came out and we're changed men, because we became men when we stood our ground from the beginning. We said, you know what? After this is it. We're changing our lives. But we didn't look for an easy way out. Looking for people to blame, we blamed ourselves. We charged ourselves. We said we were guilty within ourselves. We didn't need the courts to tell us we were guilty. We saw it within ourselves once we figured out that we had been manipulated from a higher level. And we didn't want to be a part of that anymore. So in actuality, all of us that's out there, the snitches, the informants, the person who's killing, the person selling drugs, the person who's robbing, all of us are guilty of destroying our communities, and we understand that. But do you understand that? When you neglect your child and you partying, I want you to think about it. Are you contributing to the community? When you don't help your child and you're not home with your child, helping them go through their homework and make sure they're where they're supposed to be instead of out there in the streets and you don't know who they with, are you contributing to the community or are you a detriment to your community? You see, we could point the fingers at some of you who have gotten abortions. We could do that. Think about it. I just want you to think about this. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, I promise you. I'm just trying to let you see that we all are guilty, some way, somehow. The only difference is that Mike and I, we have what you call a felony. And you can go down, you can pull us up and see our criminal records. But what if we told everybody what your record was? What if we told everybody that you had AIDS? What if we told everybody that you had herpes? What if we told everybody that how many abortions you got? Just want you to think about that. What if we told everybody what you did? But the difference is that Mike and I are willing to admit to what we did. And that's showing the youth that we made a change. But have you made a change? And if you have made a change, are you willing to open that up? Like they say in Jesus, they say Jesus' heart was open to the world. Is your heart open to the world? That's the question I ask you as you begin to judge everybody else around you. So I went, even though I disagree and have my feelings, because feelings blind you at times. Like the clouds, when they come over the sun, they block the light from coming through and block the light from shining on you and feeling the warmth. That's what emotions do. They blind you. They stop the light from coming into your brain, to your mind. You know when you get knowledge and something comes to you, it's like a light bulb that shines. Emotions will stop that. So because I have a leader, this is why it's very important as I close out. It's very important that you understand that we have living leaders to look up to. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is my leader. And he has told us to go into the community and tell our brothers and tell our sisters to stop killing one another. Make peace with one another. But guess what? It's hard for me, the kind of man that I am, to go tell a child to go do something that I haven't done. And that's make peace with those who I consider to be my enemy. So if we got to be the man, the bigger person to do it, then that's what we got to do. But see, I wouldn't have did it if I didn't have a living leader to tell me to do that. And that's why it's important that our youth have mentors, have teachers, have leaders, have guides in their midst that can give them advice and help them as they grow. Because if I didn't have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to tell me what to do, if I didn't have some of the mentors in my community when I consulted to tell me what to do, I would have never showed up to make peace because I was blinded by my emotions. So I want you to think about it. So again, it was not my intentions. I can talk all day long. I can't make everything crystal clear. But I do want to make this clear as possible that Mike Anderson and if anybody was there at that event 24 years ago, I said 24 years ago, and it still affects our life today. If anybody was there, they would tell you the truth. And the truth is that we wanted peace. They didn't want peace. They made up in their mind that they wanted to rob me. That's the truth. That's the absolute truth. Something we were not used to. We're used to going, watch a fight. After the fight, another fight may break out or whatever. That fight takes another challenges, other challenges. After that, it's over with. However, some people wanted to talk about killing. Some people wanted to talk about, I'm going to kill you. So I want you to think about that. And we kept saying to everybody, let that go. Let's just let it go. We even walked away. And I'm not talking about walked a couple of feet. We walked blocks away. That's the truth. That is the absolute truth. So I want to thank everybody out there for taking the time to listen to this video, because you're going to watch the next video that when I spoke at the event that Mike Anderson hosted. I want to say to everybody out there that it's going to take a community. with people with different perspectives, with different experiences, who are truly going to be honest, not only with the youth, but be honest with themselves. If you just wanted to carry on a beef or be angry just because you want to find a reason to be angry at somebody, or out of envy or jealous, and how you see Mike Anderson and myself are growing in life, God keep blessing us. But what is it that we're doing? We're giving back and we're accepting the challenge to change. This is Project Second Chance. Peace.